Hey guys, welcome to the AWS EC2 tutorial. So in this particular session, we'll be learning all about the Elastic Compute Cloud Service. I'm Cody Suran and I'll be explaining you all about this particular tool, and we'll also be showing you how to create a virtual machine and how to create an instance, a Linux instance and a Windows instance on AWS. We'll also understand the theoretical concepts. So now before moving on with this particular session, please subscribe to our channel so that you don't miss our upcoming videos, and also leave a like if you enjoy our content. And also if you have any queries, please leave a comment down below and we would love to help you out. So now let's get started. So let's start with what is Amazon EC2. So Amazon Elastic Compute Cloud provides scalable computing capacity in the Amazon Web Services Cloud. So using EC2 eliminates your need to invest in hardware upfront so you can develop and deploy applications faster. So to put it very simply, EC2 is a service which provides you servers. So you can basically create or any kind of server you want on the AWS cloud and start using it whenever you want to. So basically you don't have to wait for someone to buy hardware. So basically provide an upfront cost or put in a lot of capital, buy a lot of physical hardware, set up your servers, configure it, and then deploy your applications inside of them. Instead, if you're going with AWS cloud, in this case, they provide you the service called EC2. So EC2 is the service which can provide you the means to basically deploy your applications faster than how you used to do normally in an on-premise setup. So when it comes to EC2, you can basically create a Linux machine, a Windows machine, a Mac machine. So any operating system you want to, you can choose the RAM, you can choose the storage you want for that particular server. If you want 10 servers of the same configuration, you can get the same thing. If you need 100 servers, if you need 10,000 servers, AWS Cloud can scale up and down according to your needs. That's why it is called the Elastic Compute Cloud. So basically you can increase the compute power, decrease the compute power. You can increase the number of servers and decrease the number of servers according to your needs. And you can basically do it whenever you want and wherever you want. You don't need any high configuration machines. So you can use any laptop with just an internet connection, because every process is happening in the AWS infrastructure, in the AWS data center. You just need a proper system with internet. That's more than enough to access EC2 or any AWS service for that matter. So why we are going with EC2 first is because EC2 is the most integral service in AWS, and without EC2 a lot of other services would not work. For example, if you take Elastic Beanstalk is a platform as a service where you can upload your code by choosing the runtime. Let's say I have a PHP application. I can choose PHP, upload my PHP application's code, and it'll automatically provision servers in the backend for me, and it'll automatically host my application. So, but in this case, the thing is, to host the application, you would need a server in the backend. So Elastic Beanstalk automatically provisions the server, but that server is basically an EC2 server. You're not provisioning it, but yet it is launched in EC2. So Elastic Beanstalk would not work if there is no EC2. So like that, there are many other services which needs EC2 to function in AWS. Also, in Amazon EC2 provides scalable computing cloud in the Amazon Web Services Cloud. So this is what I'm saying right now. Using Amazon EC2 eliminates your need to invest in hardware upfront. So Amazon EC2 enables you to scale up or down to handle changes in requirements or spikes in popularity, reducing your need to forecast traffic. So basically, when you're using EC2, you can create a scaling policy which will automatically look into the traffic, the CPU utilization of the servers. So let's say you have 10 servers and right now there are 1,000 users using your application. So now to handle each 100 servers, you need one server. So basically there are 1,000 users. You have 10 servers handling 1,000 users. So that basically means, let's say by average, one server can handle 100 users at a time. So let's say your application becomes an overnight hit and now there are around 10,000 users. So in this case, obviously you would need more servers to accommodate 10,000 users, right? For example, to handle 1,000 users, you needed 10 servers. So to handle 10,000 users, you would need 100 servers. So now Amazon EC2, if you set up a scaling policy according to the CPU utilization, if all these servers have already been utilized, the 10 servers, then it'll automatically create more servers to accommodate the incoming traffic. So same thing, let's say then it reduces to 5,000 users. So now if there are 100 servers running for 5,000 users, that would be a waste of compute power. and also would be a waste of your cost. You are basically buying these servers, right? You are basically paying for whenever the servers are running, so you would be paying extra. So if there are 5,000 users, EC2 automatically will figure out and reduce the number of servers accordingly. So instead of 100 servers, it would make it 50 servers. So now you only pay for 50 servers for that particular period of usage. Let's say for 1 hour, 100 servers have run. So for that 1 hour, you would be paying the cost for the 100 servers. And let's say the next hour, the user traffic has reduced, now 5,000 users. For the next hour, there are only 50 servers. So the next hour, you are only going to pay for the 50 servers which is being used. Then let's say it's after 1 or 2 a.m. the user base has reduced because most people will be asleep. So let's say it is back to like 50 users. And in this case, let's say you need only 5 servers. So in that case, if there are only 5 servers running in that particular period of time, let's say for 3 hours, only 5 servers were running. So that 3 hours cost would be the total of those 5 servers cost only. There won't be anything else or extra cost added to it. So this is how you can cost optimize, and this is how you can scale using EC2. All right. So this is basically EC2. It's an infrastructure as a service. So now in EC2, the virtual computing servers. So the servers are called instances. So I'm going to use the word instance hereafter whenever I want to mention a server, a virtual computing server in EC2. So if I say instance, that basically means a virtual computing server which is running on EC2. Okay. So now instances, let's keep them aside. Next, coming to the next important concept in EC2, which is an Amazon mission image. So it's called an AMI. So it is the template that contains software configuration, for example, the operating system, an application server, the application, so whatever it is. So basically it contains the entire software configuration for your instance. From an AMI, you launch an instance, which is a copy of the AMI running as a virtual server in the cloud. So to put it very simply, let's say you are creating a virtual machine in your local system using, let's say, Oracle VirtualBox or VMware workstation. So in that case, you will be using a ISO file. So the ISO file will have all the necessary configuration, the necessary data in order to create that particular server, right, in your local system. Create that particular virtual machine in your local system. If it's an Ubuntu system, it would have the Ubuntu configuration. It will have the Ubuntu complete setup inside of it so that you can create the virtual machine in your local system. So same way, the AMI consists of the configuration which is required to create that particular server or that particular instance which has that operating system, that server or the applications which are meant to be in that particular instance. Okay, so now again, you would understand this concept even better when I show you the demo. Right now I'm just trying to give you a simple understanding of what exactly we're going to do. So if you look at the image, it will give you an even better understanding. So now coming to the next point, the root device for your instance contains the image used to boot the instance. The root device is either an Amazon Elastic Block Store volume or an instance store volume. So this is basically the root storage for instance. So it could be Amazon EBS, which is a volume, or it could be an instance store volume. So instance store volume is created with the instance itself. Amazon EBS is a separate storage tool, okay, in AWS. So now looking at the image, you can see AMI over here, right? So this is the AMI. So now using the AMI, you can create one instance or you can create multiple instances with the same configuration. So let's say you have a web server and the web server has a website running inside of it. So now you can launch one instance, and it doesn't have to be that you'll have to launch every time individually. So let's say this particular AMI consists of an Ubuntu operating system which has a simple application running inside of it. Let's say it's a static website, and let's say it's just a hello world website. Okay, so now you want this hello world website to be running in 10 instances. So using this AMI, you can launch 10 instances at one single go. You don't have to basically create each and every instance and basically then log into it, then set up the entire configuration, then upload the file and do all of that. You don't have to do that. You'll just have to launch instances and you'll have to set up the entire thing completely. You can do that with just a single AMI. All right. Okay, so when you launch an instance, so this is complete. Now coming to the next point. So when you're launching an instance, you should choose something called the instance type. So the instance type that you specify determines the hardware of the host computer. So each instance type offers a different compute, memory, and storage capabilities and is grouped in an instance family based on these capabilities. Amazon EC2 provides each instance with a consistent and predictable amount of CPU capacity, regardless of its underlying hardware. So what they are trying to say here is, so there are so many different instance types and you can choose any one of them. And if you need a high performance instance, you would need to choose an instance according to that. If you need a simple general purpose instance, you can choose according to that. But one more point which Amazon is telling, that Amazon EC2 provides each instance with consistent and predictable amount of CPU capacity. So whatever you choose, that will exactly be given to you. It will be provided consistently and predictably, so that whatever your underlying hardware is, the capacity you choose will always be provided to you. So this particular thing is this site. Over here, you can see there are the different types of instances. So these are the instance types. So general purpose, so these are the instance various kinds of instance types: general purpose instances, compute optimized, memory optimized, storage optimized. Okay, so now these are the available instance types. The complete list is provided here. You can just have a go through if you want to know what kinds of instances these are. And then previous generations. So these are the naming conventions, guys. For example, there is C3.large. If you want to know what that is, everything would be provided in this particular section. Okay. So I just wanted to show one thing to you guys before moving on to the next slide. So all of this information would be provided while you're creating an instance as well. Yeah. So if you want to know more about the general purpose instances, you can go here. And then there is compute optimized. So the compute optimized instances are ideal for compute bound applications that benefit from high performance processors. So if you have an application which requires a high performance processor, then go with a compute optimized instance. If you are just doing it for a regular application, go with general purpose. Or if you're doing it for practice, go with general purpose. Memory optimized instances are designed to deliver fast performance for workloads that process large data sets in memory. So if you have a machine learning model which needs to process a large data set in memory, not by storing it in the disk, but in memory, in that case, you should take up the memory optimized, which will give you a much bigger memory compared to the storage. Okay. And then finally, there is storage optimized. Storage optimized instances are designed for workloads that require high sequential read and write access to very large datasets on local storage. So the previous one, memory optimized, they are basically running it on memory itself. They are analyzing the dataset in memory itself. But if you have the data stored in a local storage, and if you want high read and write output, so if you want high speed read and write access, in that case you should go with a storage optimized instance. Okay, so if you want to know more about these instance types, you can go ahead and look into this particular documentation. So now I'm just going to go ahead with the PPT so that we could move on from the theory, and then I'll show you the demo, because theoretical, yes, it would teach you something, but then if you see the same thing practically, that would give you an even better understanding of what is going on. All right, and then okay, so now let's say we learned the basics about Amazon EC2. We learned what is an instance, what is an AMI, what are the instance types. So, and one more thing we'll be learning, which is the storage. That would be the next slide. So now these three are required. So let's say now we are launching an instance. Let's say this is a Ubuntu AMI. I'm launching an Ubuntu instance. And an Amazon EC2 instance transitions through different states from the moment you launch it through its termination. So what they're telling is that once you launch, it will start from a pending state, then it will have so many different states, and finally it will come to one particular state. And then once you are trying to do certain actions, the states will keep on varying. Okay, so now let's look into it. So I'm launching an instance. So the first state would be pending. So it would be in pending, and it would basically be launching this instance in the Amazon data center. So once it's launched, it will give us the required details like the public IP address, the private IP address, the DNS name. So all of that will be provided. So once that is done, it will do a status check. whether the instance is running or not. Once it is done, it will give us this particular state. It will be in a running state. So when it's in a running state, that basically means we can start working on the instance. We can log in into the instance and we can start working on it. And then if I reboot the instance, then it will be in rebooting state and again it will start running. And then if I stop the instance, so there are two major things, stop and terminate. If you stop the instance, that basically means you're just stopping the instance. You can restart it. It's like putting your system on sleep or shutting down your instance, and you can basically restart your instance and start using it. It's just stop. Okay, so if you stop it, you can start it again and it will go back to the pending state and running state again. So that's basically stop. But if you terminate the instance, what happens is it basically shuts down this instance. Once it shuts down, it deletes the instance from the Amazon data center. It basically deletes the data, or it deletes the virtual machine altogether from the Amazon data center. Stop will basically keep your server right there. It will keep your instance in Amazon data center and you can basically restart it again. But termination is completely terminating the instance. So these are the various states which an EC2 instance goes through. Okay, so the final slide we're going to look into is about the storage, because we already know about the instance. What is an instance, what is an instance type, what is an AMI. So, and one more thing we need to know before starting off with this demo is basically the storage, because when you are launching a server, that the server would need a storage in where the configuration files are stored for the operating system, right? Let's say I'm launching an Ubuntu instance. Obviously, the Ubuntu instance should be stored somewhere. So the data of the Ubuntu instance would be stored somewhere, right? So for that, we need storage. So there are different kinds of storage in which you can do that, which you can store in Amazon Web Services. So these are some of them, and that's what we're going to see. So Amazon EC2 provides you with a flexible, cost-effective, and easy to use data storage options for your instances. So each option has a unique combination of performance, durability. These storage options can be used independently or in combination to suit your requirements. So basically what they're saying is they provide you flexible, cost-effective options in terms of storage for your EC2 instances. So over here from the image you can see, so this is one instance, this is another instance. So let me just give you a brief about these different types of storage. So the first one is Amazon EFS. So Amazon EFS is elastic file storage. Okay, so basically EFS provides you shared storage, so you can have one storage and you can attach it to multiple instances. For example, let's say there is a very large data set and you want to share it with hundreds of servers, but that basically if you upload it to each server, that will obviously take a big chunk of the storage in each server. So instead of doing that, you can have a shared storage where you can create an Amazon EFS, and that shared storage could be connected to all of those instances. So every instance can see this exact same data set and basically import it or start using it. Okay, so that is EFS. So now then comes in the host computer section, you can see there is something called the mfril storage. So mfril storage is basically like RAM. So it only exists in the time of the instance is running. So let's say I launch an instance and the instance is running for 10 minutes. So in that particular period of time, let's say I'm doing some operations in the memory, so there will be data stored in the mfril storage. Okay, so now if data is stored in the mfril storage, so in that case, let's say I'm stopping the instance. If I stop the instance, that data won't be available because I've stopped the instance and the data in the memory would be erased. So that basically is mfril storage. And yeah, so this is the instance store. So this would be stored within the instance itself. And then finally comes Amazon EBS. So it's called the elastic block storage. Okay, so elastic block storage is basically the main storage type used in EC2 instances to basically connect. For example, when you launch an EC2 instance, you can choose to take an EBS volume. So when you choose to take an EBS volume, that basically will create an EBS volume, which is another AWS service, and that could be attached to an EC2 instance. And let's say you're launching an Ubuntu instance, the configuration files, the setup files, all the data files, everything will be stored in that EBS volume. Okay, and that EBS volume is exclusive to that particular EC2 instance. So there is a new feature, multi-attach EBS. You can create an EBS volume which can attach to multiple instances. But in this case, you will have to create a EBS volume, which is a different type of EBS volume. And also it will not attach to all types of EC2 instances. You will have to create something called a Nitro based instance, which is a much bigger and a much expensive instance. So normally to practice, I would not suggest to go with multi-attach EBS volumes. The normal ones are more than enough. That is normally attaching an EBS volume to an instance. So one more thing is that you can attach multiple EBS volumes to one instance. So let's say I have a laptop and the laptop storage is 1 TB. So I'm almost done with my 1 TB. I need more storage. So I can either buy a new laptop which has 1 TB more storage, or I can basically buy an external storage, okay, and attach it to my laptop and use that to store my data. So like that, in EC2 you can create another EBS volume and attach it to the same instance and also mount it and use it like normally. So you can use the EBS volume normally. So so this is another storage. And finally there is one more, which is Amazon S3. So we're going to learn about S3 in another tutorial, but right now I'm just going to give you a very brief. So let's say you want to basically terminate the instance, but you want to basically keep the configuration of the instance available in EC2 in AWS, so that the next time you want to launch the instance with the same configuration, same files and the same applications which you have already installed in it, so you can directly use the setup, the file, and directly launch an instance. So for that, there is something called a backup in AWS. So that backup is called a snapshot. So you can create a backup of the EBS volume, which again is called a snapshot, and which will be stored in S3. So now using the snapshot, you can create an EC2 instance which resembles the one you currently have. So this is where AMI comes in. So let's say you have created an instance, you have launched a server inside of it. There is a web server running. There are 10 different web files stored inside it. Okay. So now let's say you want an instance just like this. You want the same files, you want the same web server running in it, but you don't want to configure it again. So in that case, you can create a copy of the same instance. And once you create a copy of the instance, you can use that copy to create multiple instances with the same configuration. So this is the end of the theory part. So guys, in the demo, what I'm going to show is I'm going to show you how to create an EC2 instance first and how to connect to an EC2 instance. And once we connect it, I'll be showing you how to launch a web server inside the instance and how to basically make sure it runs. Okay, and the final thing I'll be showing you is how to create an AMI and create a copy of the same instance, so that you can increase the number of servers or decrease the number of servers according to your need. So these are the three things which I'll be showing you. So this is the theory part. Now let me open the console and let's start off with it. So guys, this is the next part. So we've covered the theoretical part. So now what we're going to see is we're going to understand the AWS Management Console. So the first thing you will have to do is obviously log in into AWS. And before doing that, make sure you have created an AWS account. So to do that, I'll just show you because I want to start from scratch. I don't want to give you guys information from right in the beginning. So basically, you will have to come to aws.amazon.com. So for now, it's showing sign into the console, right? I've already signed in. So let me just sign out. All right. So now it's asking me to sign in to the console. So I can directly sign in like this. Okay. So if you've not created an account, you can click on create a new AWS account. So then it's pretty simple. Just provide your email address, password, and your AWS account name. It'll be like your username. So this is basically set up like how you set up for a Facebook account or an Instagram account. It's pretty simple. So once you do this, just provide continue. So after that, they would be asking some more information like billing information, either debit or credit card details. So the thing is, you will have to provide a debit or credit card detail. Without that, you cannot proceed. So if you're from India, they would detect 2 rupees from your account and which will be returned back to your account after 3 days, because they just want to verify if your card is an authentic or a legit card or not. So that's it. So once that is done, your AWS account will be set up and you can wait for an hour or two, and then everything would be set up in your account and it will be ready for use. All right. So once that is done, you can basically sign into your account. So I'm just signing in. Okay, so now you can access all AWS services here. There are sections for recently visited, and you can save your favorite services too. Okay, so first of all, if you click on services, you can see every single service over here. And recently I just opened EC2. Okay, so this is a new account, and again, analytics, application integration. So these are the various service domains which you can click and look into various other services. For example, if you want to look into a migration service, then you can just click on migration and transfer, and it will show all the different tools which are available for migration. So database migration, AWS migration, simplify and accelerate the migration of your data centers to AWS. Server migration, if you have servers in your on-premises system and if you want to migrate it to AWS without any further attention, without setting up anything, you can use server migration service. So like this, you can view services for every single domain. So in our case, EC2 is a compute service. It provides you compute power. So it gives you virtual servers in the cloud, which are called as instances. All right. So this is what we're going to cover in this particular session. So why EC2 at first? Because EC2 is the most integral service. So we'll be looking into many other AWS services in the future in our YouTube channel. So we'll be looking into VPC, S3. We will be looking into a simplified project using these services. We'll be looking into RDS, and there are so many services to learn. So this session, we want to look into EC2. All right. So once logged in, few things you'll have to look into is, so this is services. This is the search bar, like you can search for the services over here, and this is the shell. So it opens up the cloud shell if you already have services. So you can basically access those services via the shell. So to basically start working with the shell, you will have to know the commands, AWS CLI commands. So you can check out the AWS CLI documentation in order to start with that. So again, this is a little complex. I'm not going to go into this. This we'll see later in another session. And this is a notification one. So if there are any issues with certain services, they'll be showing it over here. And then over here, so this is the help section. So basically, if you want to raise support ticket, then you can go to support center and do that. Okay, and this is an important part. So this is where you will be provided all the regions from all the regions which you can choose from. So these are the data centers, different data centers available in different various locations. So this is North Virginia, which I'm currently using. So if I'm in India, I could go with Asia Pacific Mumbai as well. So right now, the only data center available in India is in Mumbai. So rest every Asia Pacific regions are, you can see Hong Kong, Osaka, Seoul, Singapore, Sydney, and Tokyo. All right. And in US West, there are 4. Europe, there are 6. Yeah. So basically, you can choose whichever region you want. I'm just going to go with North Virginia. So this is one of the most reliable regions in AWS, because as you can see, this is US East 1. And so basically the US data centers get the new features first before they implement it in other data centers. So if there is a beta version of a new service, that would be implemented in the US data centers. So if you are using AWS, then go with the US data centers to start off with, that is to practice with, because if you want to check out the new features, it would be available in the US data centers. All right. Okay. And then this is your account details. So your account ID will be provided here. If you click on this, more account details will be provided. This is organization. This is a separate tool, AWS organizations. So if you're working for a company and let's say you can create an organization, under that you can have multiple AWS member accounts. So for example, let's say you are managing a team of 50 people who all are working on the cloud, who all have separate accounts or who all have member accounts. So you can maintain that access from this one particular tool, organization. So if you want to remove certain access, if you want to give people access, you can do that from this particular console. Okay, service quotas. So initially there would be certain service quotas. For example, you can only launch 100 servers in one particular region. So if you want more, you can basically click on service quotas and check what are your current service quotas, and then ask for an increase in your quota to AWS, and they would give you an increase as soon as your ticket is solved. Okay. And then billing dashboard. So this is where you get all your billing details once you, let's say you're using a service for 3 hours. If it is not under the free tier limit, that will basically give you a charge. And that charge will be reflected in the billing dashboard, which you can view over there. Security credentials. So these are important, but again, you need to know more about AWS in order to understand these concepts. Okay, so I'm going to skip this. All right, so this is the account and you can sign out directly from here. Okay, so this is basically the console, guys. And then over here, you can see build a solution. These are for beginners. You can start off with this as well. You can learn the fundamentals from the documentation. You can pick a learning path. Okay, so now I'm going to just open the EC2 console. All right, this is how the EC2 console looks. Over here, you can see the instances, the elastic IP addresses, the key pairs. So I'll be explaining what is a key pair. So you don't have to worry about what are these. I'll be explaining about them. So I won't be explaining about load balancers or security groups. What else? Yeah, so load balancers I won't be explaining because it's a separately different concept. Load balancers, again, is a major topic which we can see. And then there is a new feature available right now, EC2 Global View. So if you have servers in, let's say, 10 regions, and if you want to view them in one single place, so you can click on EC2 Global View and it will give you a view of all the servers running in all the regions. So this has been provided recently. This was not available before. So you can see they are giving you a complete overview of all the regions, number of instances running, if there is a VPC created, if there are subnets, if there are security groups, and every single information you need to know about EC2 instances. All right. Okay. And one more thing I wanted to show you guys is, yeah, so instances running, if there are any instances running, it will be shown over here. Okay. All right. So this is basically the introduction. So next what we'll be doing is we'll be launching a server in EC2. That's when we'll be understanding more about EC2 and how to configure EC2, how can we choose an AMI and all of that. So I'll be explaining every single step. I'll be explaining the components and the things I'm entering. So you don't have to worry about anything else. So just follow me through. If you already have created an AWS account, then you can just follow this tutorial. You can basically walk through with me. If not, create an AWS account and then start off with a video from this particular part, because we'll be looking into a demo from here on. All right. Okay. So we'll start off with the demo. So starting off with the demo. So first of all, we'll be looking into instances. So we'll be launching an instance using EC2. So as I already explained, instance is a server. So I'm going to show you how to launch a Ubuntu instance. And once we launched an Ubuntu instance, I'm going to show you how to connect to the Ubuntu instance using the terminal. So this is a Mac, so the connection, I'm going to use a terminal to connect it. If you're using a Windows system, then you can download something called Putty. So Putty is a tool which I'm going to show you. So this is the Putty link. So you can basically go over here and download the Windows installer. So over here you can just download it and you can start using the Putty tool instead of using the terminal. So this is for Windows. If you're using a Linux machine, so let's say you're using Ubuntu or a CentOS machine, so in that case, again, you can directly use the terminal itself. You don't have to use anything else. Okay. So now let's start. I'll be explaining each and every step while we go through this. All right. So instance running. So currently there are no instances running, so it's not going to show anything else. And so before moving on, I just wanted to show one more thing, which is the free tier in AWS. Okay, over here you can see, you can go to aws.amazon.com/free if you are watching the video currently. You will be provided with all the services which you get a free tier for. So basically you would get a amount or number of services, number of features for free for a period of time. For example, for EC2, they're giving you 750 hours of runtime for a server. Like it's not one server. Let's say if there are 10 servers running and each server can run for 75 hours. The total would become 750 hours. So for that 750 hours, you would not get billed anything. If your hours go beyond 750, then you will start getting billed for the first 12 months once you create your AWS account. So like that, all the integral services have certain free tier limits. So you can basically be within the free tier limits while practicing and you won't get any bill. You would not get billed anything. So you can just check what is free for 12 months. What are the services which will be always free. So like DynamoDB, 25 GB of storage in DynamoDB is always free. 1 million publishes in SNS is always free. So like that, all of this will be provided. All right. So I just wanted to show that because while we go through this particular process of launching an instance, here we'll be given options of something called a free tier instance type. So I don't want to take you again over the website to show you this is what a free tier is. So I just wanted to show you right now so that we can move on. All right. Okay. So now let's launch an instance. So to start off with it, you can just click on launch an instance over here, or you can just go to the EC2 dashboard and click on launch an instance over here. All right. So the next step is basically to choose an Amazon mission image. So over here, you can see the first one is Amazon Linux 2 AMI. So Amazon Linux 2 is the operating system which Amazon themselves provide. And you can see there is something called free tier eligible. So whichever AMIs have the name free tier eligible over there are the AMIs which are given for free of cost. You won't get charged anything for using these AMIs. If you're using the other AMIs, for example, the deep learning AMI or the deep learning AMI GPU PyTorch, let's say Microsoft Server 2019 with SQL Server 2019 standard. So these kinds of AMIs will cost you. You will get billed. So to start off with it, to practice, you can just start off with the free tier eligible AMIs. So I've already explained what is an AMI. And so again, they also recently added the Mac OS. You can also create a Mac server. All right. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to launch an Ubuntu server and I'm going to show you it, and I'm going to connect to the instance and show it to you. All right. Okay. So Ubuntu instance, it's free tier eligible. And so I'm going to choose the 20.041. There is the 18.04 as well, which is the older version. The new latest stable version is 20.04. So I'm going to select this. So the next thing it will ask is what type of an instance type do you need? So the instance type which is going to be free for you if you create a new AWS account would be t2.micro. So every other instance types will get you a build. So the only instance type which is free is t2.micro. So go with it. So what you want to know here is, so t2.micro provides you one virtual CPU. So that basically means it provides you one virtual CPU of compute power and 1 GB of RAM. And it only allows EBS storage. That is, you can only connect an EBS volume to it. You cannot connect anything else. You can connect other storages, but the root volume would be EBS. So if you come down, so here you can see SSD is allowed. Here EBS only. So wherever EBS only is provided, you can only connect EBS. Wherever SSD is provided, you can connect other services like instance store. You can connect EFS. So all of that can be connected. So you can also connect EFS to here, but EFS would not be the root volume. The EBS volume which will be created with the instance would be the root volume. So that would be added in the fourth step, which is add storage. So first we would choose the AMI. Second, we would choose the instance type. We need one virtual CPU and 1 GB of RAM. All right. Next, we are going to configure the instance details. So over the instance details, the first one is number of instances. If you need one instance, or 10 instances, or 100, or 1000, how many instances do you need? You'll have to provide the number over here. Okay, so it will create that many instances for you. The next one is a purchasing option. So we are not going to purchase any instance right now. So this basically, I'll explain it to you. Purchasing option is basically you can reserve the instance for a year or 3 years. So it will basically provide you a dedicated instance in a dedicated physical server, which will always be available for you at any time. So if right now we are creating an on-demand instance. An on-demand instance is basically an instance which you create whenever you want, terminate whenever you want. But if you want, let's say 100 instances dedicated for you in a dedicated physical server, even though it's AWS, it's someone else's data center, but you want dedicated number of instances. In that case, you can use the purchasing option. You would also get a discount in the purchasing option because you're going to purchase it for a complete year. So you'll be locked in for a year and you'll be paying for that. All right. Okay. And next comes the network, subnet, and auto assign IP. So this I'll be covering in the VPC tutorial. But again, these are very vast concepts which you'll have to understand more. But to be very simple, so every single system should be in a network. Without a network, you cannot have a system. So to connect with the system, to communicate with the system, there should be a network. So that's what VPC will do for you. You can have an isolated network within AWS, which will be isolated from other VPCs, other networks which other customers have. Okay, but again, you can create a peering network within two different VPCs. So peering network is a communication network where a server from another VPC can talk to or communicate with another server in another VPC. So again, these concepts we'll learn in another tutorial, and so I'm just going to move ahead. Okay, so for now you just have to know this number of instances is 1, so we're going to create 1 instance. That's it. Next, we have to add storage. So while you install a server, while you install this particular instance, the data, the files should be stored somewhere, right, in a root volume. So for that, we need to create a root volume instance, okay, a volume. And here it's basically an EBS volume. As I told you, only EBS is allowed in this particular instance type. And free tier eligible customers can get up to 30 GB of EBS volume per month. Okay, so you can see I can go to the free tier thing and check it out. So I'm just going to use 8 GB. So because Ubuntu server doesn't need more than 8 GB of storage, just takes 2 GB. The server itself is 2 GB. Then there will be lots of space for storage because I'm not going to upload any huge file to the server. So it doesn't matter for now. I'm going to go with the initial size, which is 8 GB. Okay, and delete on termination. So if you switch this on, what happens is when you delete the server, that is the instance, the EBS volume which is attached to it will also automatically delete. If not, if you disable this, when you delete it, the EBS volume will still be available. You will have to delete it manually. Alright, so I'm just going to keep it enabled. And encryption, you can use a key which is available already, or you can leave it just like that. And shared file system, so this is EFS. So you can add a file system directly over here, or after creating an instance, you can create a shared file system and then later attach to it. Okay, so again, this would be a storage tutorial. I'm not going to get into the storage part. We're just covering the EC2 part. Okay, so we need a storage root volume. So we've created that. So that is automatically provided. It's 8 GB. And volume type, it's going to be general purpose. And next, tags. So tags are not integral. They are clearly an optional step. So why tags is basically, let's say you have 10 instances, let's say you have 100 instances and you have created 10 instances in that particular region. There are other people using the account, but you want to differentiate your instances. So in that case, you can give all the 10 instances a unique tag, which you can search for and it will provide those particular instances. For example, let's say name, I'm gonna put it as scalar. So in this case, the instance which I'm creating will have the tag as scalar. And if I have 10 instances named scalar, and if I search for scalar in the EC2 instance dashboard, it will give me all the instances named scalar so that I don't have to navigate through the entire list. Alright. Okay. So this is basically tag. And then security group. So a security group is really important for an EC2 instance. A security group is what decides basically what traffic should come inside the instance, what traffic should go outside the instance. It's basically like a firewall. Not exactly a firewall, but a list of rules which lets something happen. For example, right now only SSH is allowed. SSH basically means secure shell. So secure shell is a type of a TCP protocol which lets you connect to the EC2 instance via port number 22. Okay, so for now, basically this particular EC2 instance will be allowed to all the IP addresses. So if I want, I can change it to my IP. For example, if I provide my IP, it will only allow my IP, that is my particular personal computer, to access this particular EC2 instance. But if it isn't custom or if it isn't anywhere, so this basically will allow any system across the world to connect to my EC2 instance. But not everybody can connect. You can only connect to the instance if you have the private key to decrypt the public key which will be available in the instance. So now you would be confused by the key pair. So that's what we're going to cover next. So I'm going to just provide just this one SSH. So I'm going to review and launch. Okay. So everything else is provided. I hope you guys understood the steps. So just follow through and you can create an instance within a couple of minutes. So now when you click on launch, it won't launch the instance. It will ask for a key pair. Okay. So now I'm going to create a new key pair. And so I'm going to name it as, I'm just going to name it as tutorial key. Alright. I'm going to download it. So the key pair is downloaded. Okay. So now you can launch the instance. So why did I download a key pair? You might ask, what exactly is the purpose of a key pair? So now I've downloaded this key pair called tutorial key. So now this particular key pair will have two keys. One will be the public key and one will be the private key. The instance we are going to launch will have the public key inside of it. and the private key is the one which we have downloaded. All right. So now when you're logging into the instance, not if you provide public access to anyone could log in into the instance if they have the public IP address, but that should not happen. So we do not want that happening. So in that case, what you're doing is only I would be having the private key, which I just downloaded. Only I have the private key. Nobody else has it. Even though they know the public IP address of my instance, even though my instance is open to the world, anybody could try to log in. But if they don't have the right private key, nobody else could log in apart from me. All right. So that's why we need a key pair. It's for security purposes and it's to log in into the instance. Okay. So now let's launch the instance. So now first it basically create all the dependencies. Once the dependencies are created, the instance will be launching. So now we can view the instance. As I told you, first it would be in a pending state. So in a pending state, then it will come to a running state. So then you would be seeing here status check. So the status checks will become 2/2. So that basically means the instance is successfully running. So now the instance over here, you can see the public IP address has been provided. The private IP address has been provided. So the public IP is what you will be using to connect with. The private IP address is the IP address which is particular for the EC2 instance. If there is another service within my AWS account trying to connect to my EC2 instance, in that case it can use the private IP address instead of the public IP address. Okay. All right. So now we can see the instance is running and status check is initializing. So let's just wait until this completes. Sometimes it will so you can see the status checks are running, system status checks and instance status check. So it will just check if the instance is running properly, if there is any issues. If there are no issues, that it will just show 2 out of 2. That's it. Okay, so then there is a security. So this is where you see all the security rules, the security group which was created. Networking, again, so networking provides you more information about every single networking detail, the public IP, private IP, public DNS. So public IP address and the public DNS is the same. So it's basically this DNS name will search for this particular IP address. That's it. It just redirects to this IP address. So you can see it's the same thing. And so it's an internal DNS name, and then what VPC has been attached to it, which subnet has been attached to it, and what is the availability zone. So in North Virginia alone, there are 6 availability zones. That is 1A, 1B, 1C till 1F. All right. Yeah. So basically, this is launched in the 1B availability zone. Okay. Okay. So next storage has been created. It's been attached. Status checks. Let's just refresh this. Okay. Then monitoring. So this basically will provide you a little bit of insight to the instance. So it will show what is the CPU utilization. So the instance is yet to start running, right? So that's why it's not showing any data. So once it starts running, it will show the CPU utilization. It will show whether the status checks have been succeeded, network in, network out, what is the packets, how many packets came in, how many packets went out of the particular server. That's the internet usage. And if there is any data which was read, there was any data which was written. So all of that will be written. Okay. Got it. So now you can see 2 out of 2 status checks have been passed. Okay. So now I just want to show one thing. So first let me open this particular IP address. So I just wanted to show that there is no website running or web page running in this particular EC2 instance because I just launched it and I am just opening that particular IP address so that you wouldn't know there is no web page running in this. Okay. So there is nothing running in this. That's why it's still loading. It won't show any web page. Okay. So I'll be launching a web page. That's why I'm saying when I launch a web page, when I run this exact same IP address, it will show a web page. Okay. Got it. Okay. So now let's connect the instance. The instance is successfully running. Okay. And then over here, you can see there are 3 options. You can reboot the instance. You can stop the instance and terminate the instance. I told you what each of these things does. And if you stop the instance, then also you can terminate the instance, or you can start the instance back and start using it. And there are other actions you can connect to it. So again, the connect option. So these are the same things which are provided over here. All right. Okay. So now let's connect to the instance. So there are multiple options to connect to an instance. One is the EC2 Instance Connect. So when I click on it, it will open another tab in the browser, and we can we can basically access the instance directly from the browser itself. And there is another option, Session Manager. So we are not going to use this. Okay, we weren't able to connect to your instance. Common reasons for this. So basically, I have not installed these agents, so I'm not using this. So we're not going to go ahead with this. Connect your instance without SSH keys or bashing a host. Okay, so we are not going to use the SSH manager. And then we have the SSH client. So SSH client, which is what I told you, Putty is in SSH client. There are other SSH clients as well. So if you have those SSH clients, you can start using them. Okay. And then there is one more, which is EC2 Serial Console. Again, I do not have this particular setup. So either we can go with EC2 Instance Connect, or we can go with SSH client. So I'm going to show you both of these, how to connect with both of these, because I have an SSH client in my local PC, which is automatically enabled in my terminal. So as a Mac, so I can just search for the terminal and connect directly to it. Okay. And so first I'm just going to connect it over here. So you don't have to do anything else. You can just click on connect. It will automatically open a new tab, and it will automatically establish connection to the instance. You don't even have to provide the private key over here. Okay. So whenever you launch an instance, the first thing I would suggest you to do is update it. So as this is an Ubuntu instance, it would be apt-get, it would not be yum. So if it's another Linux instance, if it's Amazon Linux, then it would be yum. And also the so I'll tell you that when I'm connecting it with the SSH, what would be the default login name. So the default login name for an Ubuntu system would be Ubuntu itself. So this one. If it's any other Linux system, the default login name would be EC2 user. So this would be the default login name for any other EC2 instance. If you're launching Amazon Linux, then you'll have to use this when you're connecting with via SSH. So one more thing I would suggest is, do not connect it via browser and start working with it, because it's a little buggy. I would suggest you to connect with the SSH client itself. All right. So one thing I want to do is, so for example, let's say there are no files in this drive. I'm just going to create a 1.txt file, so that when I connect it via the SSH client, you would know it is the same instance. That's it, nothing else. All right. Okay. Just going to close this. So now let me open the terminal and let's connect to it. Alright, so I'm just gonna make it a little bigger and increase the size. Alright, okay, so now we have opened this. So now to connect to this, we'll have to use the SSH client. So the SSH client, this is the example. Basically, we can use this directly and connect to it. So I'm gonna just use this. So one small correction would be that this could be the IP address, or this could be the DNS name. For example, let's say I'm pasting this. All right. So this could be the DNS name, or this could be the IP address. So one thing is that the tutorial key.pem file is not located in this particular location. All right. This key is not known by other names. Yeah. So I'm just going to give no for now. Okay. So the thing is, this particular key which I downloaded is in the downloads folder. It's not in this particular folder. So we'll have to go to that folder in order to access it. So now before doing that, I just wanted to show you. So SSH minus I or I-I, and this would be tutorial. Yeah. So basically what I was saying about is, so we have to figure out where the key is. So then we can basically connect to it. So we can, again, as I told you, so this is the DNS name. If I go to the instance, alright, so this is the IP address. We can use the IP address, or we can use the DNS name. So what that basically means is, so instead of this, you can provide the IP address. That's what I mean. But you can still go with the DNS name. So I'm not going to change it. I'm just going to copy it. And one thing is that SSH-I, so tutorial key.pem. So this is -I basically denotes the key, and we are providing the name of the key. And then Ubuntu is the username at what is the IP address. So that's what you're providing. So it will basically search for the server, and it will use this particular key to connect to it. Okay, pretty simple. Now I downloaded it, so it would be in the downloads folder. So I'm just gonna see, and yeah, so it's in this folder. I'm just gonna paste Okay, so now this particular key is in this folder. I know that, so I'm just going to go with it. So I've hit enter, and now you can see the authenticity of host. The IP address has been provided, can be established, and the key fingerprint is provided. The key is not known by other names. Okay, so yes. Okay, so now you can see this has been added to the list of known hosts, unprotected private key file. So that is fine. We can just change the permissions of the tutorial key. Yeah, so the key's permission has been denied. So nothing else. We just have to change the permission of the key. Okay, so over here you can see, right, chmod 400. We can just run this command and we can make sure it's available. So that's it. I'm just going to paste this. I'm done. So now let's run this again. So now it has been successfully connected. So the instance has been connected. You can see Ubuntu at the IP address has been provided over here. Okay, so now if I do an ls, it should show the 1.txt file which I created in that browser, right? So it's the same instance, we just connected it with the browser. Now we are connecting it with the terminal. Okay, so if I do an ls, you can see the 1.txt file is available. So simple. So we have created an instance and connected to the instance via the local terminal. So this is basically one of the biggest things in AWS and one of the most easiest things to start with. So you have successfully created your own server and you have connected to the server in your local system. Okay. So now the next step we're going to do is we're going to create and we're going to configure a web server inside of this particular server, and we're going to run it publicly. So over here, right now, as I told you, there is no web server running. So we're going to launch a web server inside this, right? Okay. So now, so there is a web server. We can either use Apache 2 or we can use engines. So I'm just going to go with Apache 2. I'm going to install Apache 2, and so it would be a sudo apt-get install Apache 2 and -y. If there is any question which is asking yes or no in between, it will automatically provide the answer as yes. Okay, so we are installing Apache 2. So this is a web server which will be configuring and creating a complete web server for us, in which we can put our HTML pages, or we can put in our, so we can put in our PHP pages, and that will work fine with this. All right, so that's what we are trying to do over here. And once done, we'll have to do one more thing, that is we'll have to allow this particular web page in the AWS console. So we have provided only access to SSH, right? So the instance could only allow SSH, but in this case, we need to allow another access. So we need to allow another protocol which would be listening to this particular web server. All right. Okay. So the web server has been successfully installed. All right. So the location of this particular web server in this particular server would be in a location called /var/www/html. Alright, so there is an index.html file available over here. This is the index.html file which will reflect when I'm going to refresh this page, but it won't reflect now because we've not allowed the port number 80 and the protocol HTTP. So once we allow that, this particular web page will be shown over here. Okay, I'm going to go to instance management and go to security. So we'll have to allow the port number over here in inbound rules. So to allow it in inbound rules, we have to open the security group which is attached to the instance. So I'm going to open the security group and edit inbound rules. So I'm going to click on inbound rules and add a rule. So here it could be custom TCP, and you can just provide the port number as 80, or you can basically select the HTTP and you can provide anywhere IPv4, or you can provide my IP. So you can connect it from your IP. So I'm connecting to the instance from my IP address, right? So then it will only show that particular instance, particular web page from my IP address. So I'm going to use anywhere. So okay, so I'm allowing anywhere over here, and I'm going to save the rules. So done. So now HTTP protocol has been allowed. So now if I refresh this particular web page, this particular IP address, which is the IP address of my server, this web page index.html should be shown over here. So I'm going to just refresh this. So it's just taking some time to load. So I'll just close this and let's open it again. We'll go to the instance. We go to networking. Yeah, so now we can see the Apache 2 default page has been loaded over here. Okay, it's pretty simple. So this particular page, index.html, is shown here. So we have successfully launched a web server and hosted a simple web page over here. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do one more thing. I'm going to basically create, so this is a web page. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to basically create another file, let's say 1.html over here, and we are going to use that. So I think this particular page is kind of still loading. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to launch another terminal. Okay, and I'm going to make it bigger. And then open downloads. Okay, so I'm going to connect to the instance once again. Okay, so we've connected to the instance. So now let me open the same drive. So we'll have to add a slash here because we are in a different directory and we are taking this from root. So that's why we'll have to add that. All right. So okay, so now index.html is available over here. So now let's do one thing. Let's add sudo 1.html. Okay, so I'm going to just provide something like hello world. This is 1.html file. All right, and I'm going to save this file. So I'm going to save this as 1.html. It's been saved. So now I'm going to exit. So now you can see 1.html file has been created. Let me just check. So hello world, this is 1.html file. So HTML file has been successfully created. So now let me go over here again. So this basically searches for the index.html file in the /var/www/html directory. So in the HTML directory, it's searching for the index.html page. So now if we write 1.html, then it should fetch the 1.html page. Over here you can see, hello world, this is 1.html file. So this is very simple web page hosting. So that's what we have done here. So if you want your website to be running as the default page, in that case, you would just have to remove this particular index.html page and replace it with a new index.html page. And that's more than enough. So when you put the IP address, it will automatically run. So, okay, so this is basically the very simplest part. All right. So now, this part. So I'm going to show you one more demo, which is going to be AMI. That is, we're going to copy the AMI and we're going to launch the instance so that it has the same web page, Apache to Ubuntu default page, and this 1.html page already available inside of it. So we are not going to configure anything. We're just going to launch it and we're going to see if that instance has this pages available. Okay. So to start off with that, we have to first create an image of this instance. That is, we have to create a copy of this instance we have created over here. So instance state, so this is the instance state. Now if you go to actions, there will be an option called images and templates. Okay, so here you get an option called create image. So you have to click on create image and you have to provide an image name. I'm just going to provide it as copy of scalar. All right. And then if you don't want any reboot while you are creating this image, you can provide this, but it's fine. Let the instance reboot, no problem. If you want to add another volume, you can add it, or it will automatically create a default volume, and it will use the snapshot of the instance which we already have, which is the scalar instance. It will use a snapshot of that and basically copy the entire configuration into this, so that all the configurations we've made, all the software we've installed, all the files we've created, all of those will be available in the new instance which we'll be creating using the AMI, which we are creating right now. Okay, got it. Okay, so now done. So we provided the name of the image. That's more than enough, and we're going to create the image. Okay, so image has been created. So to see the image, you have to go under images, AMIs. So now you can see it's pending. All right, so this is the instance which we have, guys. So I'm creating an AMI and I'm going to use this AMI to launch another instance. and that instance, I'm not going to log in into the instance. That instance is already going to have all the files which you already configured in this particular server, in this particular instance. So let's say if you want to create an instance and want to scale up and down accordingly, so this is how you do it. You create a copy of the server which you have configured, which has all the software, which is all the code files, which is all the data which is required for your application to run, and you create a copy of that, and you use the copy to create multiple servers, so that there could be more servers created of the same configuration again and again. So now again, the thing is, if you want to change the configuration a little bit, in that case you can just change the configuration in one server, create a copy of it, and use the copy to again create similar servers. So this is how it works. You don't have to log in into every single server and configure every single time. You just have to create the server once, configure it once, create an AMI, use the copy to create a similar server. Got it? So it's that simple. So it will take some time to basically come back, basically come as available, and it's a private AMI because I'm creating the AMI within my AWS account for my personal use. So it would be private. If you want, later you can make it into a public AMI which others can use. Okay, if not, it's fine. So for now, let's let it be a private AMI. Okay, and so this is the AMI ID, and this is the source, which is my account, the owner account, and yeah, so pretty much that's it. So only thing we'll have to wait is for it to become available. Okay guys, so now the AMI it's been available. Okay, so the status has been changed from pending to available. So now we can use this AMI to create a similar instance of the instance which we created and configured. So it's pretty simple. Just select the AMI, click on launch, then it's the same steps. Okay, just choose the instance type. I'm going to choose the same instance type, t2.micro. Configure instance details, I'm going to leave it to the same. Add tags. So this is the storage. Again, I'm going to leave it to blank. I'm going to just leave it like this. I just need the same thing. Tags, I'm going to name it as AMI instance or copy of scalar. Next. So here I'm going to use the same security group which we just created, launch wizard 52, I guess. Yeah, which has HTTP and SSH both. So I'm going to use the same thing because we are not going to log in into the instance and launch a web server and then configure it. It's already been configured. We'll just have to allow HTTP, and once the instance is running, the web page will be already running in the server, in the instance, right? Okay. So now let's launch. So now, second thing is that you don't have to create a key pair every single time you launch an instance. If you have a private key in your system, you can just use the same key pair. Over here, I've created as tutorial key, right? You can just use the same key pair in order to connect to any instance you want. So the public key will be available in various instances. So make sure only you have the private key because it's pretty important. If anybody else has the private key, they could connect to the instance. So keep a private key with yourself, and that's it. So then you can just launch the instance, and once the instance is running, then it will already have the web page running inside of it. So this is the web page which we have over here, right? Okay. So this particular server should have the same web pages running because it's the copy of this particular server. Okay, so I'm just going to copy the public IP. So it's in pending state, but yet I'm just going to paste it and keep it over here. So once the server is up and running, it should show the Apache 2 default page over here, the Ubuntu default page over here. Okay. So it's running. So status checks are not done yet, but sometimes even though it's showing initializing, it will be already done. So I'm just going to refresh it and check once. Okay. So the instance is running, guys, and you can see it's a completely different IP address, and this is a different IP address, and it already had the Ubuntu default page available inside of it because it's a copy of the instance we created. So this is how an AMI works. The AMI will have the complete configuration, the software, the applications, the files, everything which is inside of an instance, and we create an AMI of that instance. It will create a complete copy which can be used to create more instances, basically replicating the same instance. Alright. So now this instance should also have the 1.html file. So it also has the 1.html file inside of it, guys. So this is basically it for this particular demo for the EC2 tutorial. So I showed you how to create an instance, how to create an AMI, and how to launch an instance with the AMI which we just created. So this is basically it. It's pretty simple, right? And you can also you can also follow through with this particular tutorial, and you can also start with AWS. So it's pretty simple to start with. Anybody could start with it. And if you want to launch or deploy your own website, you can just use the server. It's really cheap. You can just use this server in order to host your web page or your website. Okay. So that's it for this session, guys. Thank you. So that's it for this session, guys. I hope you understood and it was informative. If you have any questions, please leave a comment down below and we would love to help you out. And also, if you like the video, please subscribe and share. Thank you.